Did you know that you can make money from your podcast with no minimum listenership? If you haven't heard about Anchor, it is the easiest way to make a podcast. And best of all, there's absolutely no charge to do so. They have creation tools that allow you to record and edit your podcast right from your phone or computer. And Anchor will distribute your podcast for you, so you can be heard all over the place on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Podcasts, and more. It is definitely everything that you need to make a podcast in one place, one-stop shop. Make sure that you download that free Anchor app or go to anchor.fm to get started. You are tuned in to a female-hosted podcast who values you and your time. Each week, I will deliver short and sweet perspectives with no sidekick. So please, sit back, put your feet up, and allow me to bring you Drea's point of view. Hello. Thanks for tuning in to Drea's Point of View. I'm your hostess, Drea, and today we'll be talking about ride shares. You know how they say the third time's a charm? Hopefully that's the case, because this is the third time I'm recording this episode. The first time, I thought I had everything all set, but then it's like, okay, I forgot a story. Then I had to re-record it because this episode is really dedicated to one of my favorite podcast hosts. He hosts What is TWS, J. Flan. He talked about ride shares in one of his recent episodes. And I said, you know what? That sounds like something I could really talk about. He really talked about the music that they play and how it seems to be geared towards a certain thing once he's in the van. They always, they're changing channels and they don't ask him what he wants to listen to. They automatically assume that he wants to hear urban. And I thought about that for a minute. I'm like, wait a minute. But before I get into that, I had to say this in his episodes. Well, first off, let me back it up a little bit more. He actually corrected me. I mentioned on my last episode of the first season how he has his charity. Well, it's not his charity. He's supporting a friend's charity. So thanks for correcting me about that. But he talks about this cookie place that called Tiff's Treats that delivers hot cookies out of the oven. If you could just picture that. I actually was walking the first time he mentioned it, and I stopped in my tracks as he was describing this place. They deliver hot cookies. They have brownies. They'll deliver your ice cream with it. They'll deliver the milk. And I was just in heaven listening to all these different kinds of cookies. I'm like, oh my God. But it was in Texas. So he talked about it again recently. And for some reason, I looked online and I'm like, let me see. And lo and behold, I found some other locations. They're spread out in Texas. There's a lot of them in Atlanta as well. And I happened to be in Atlanta the past couple of days. And I'm like, oh, okay, maybe I can indulge in Tiff's Treats. They're in 6 locations, but of course, none of them delivered to where I was staying. So, okay, fine, I'll go to the place. Now, the place that I went to, that particular location didn't take cash. And so, that's fine. I mean, I had cash ready, but that's fine. I charged it. So when I got there, the kind that I wanted wasn't ready yet. He was like another 20 minutes. I went outside, made some phone calls, killed some time, and I could smell the cookies from where I was. And I was maybe a building or two over, and I just smelled the cookies. I'm like, oh my God, this is going to be an amazing experience. So there's tons you could choose from. You see it in a display case. You can order it online. You can have it, you can order it online, you can pick it up, have it ready for you, or do what I did and go in and I just wanted to see it. I want to see the cookies in the display. I want the whole experience. So I got a half a dozen, three different kinds. I got chocolate chip. I got a chocolate chip with peanut butter. And it was a special type of cookies and cream or something. And then I got a brownie. So he packed it up in this cute little box with a bow on it. And he saw me because I came straight from the airport to the place. So I had a big duffel bag. I had a jacket. And he knew I had that box. So the guy was so nice. So he got this huge bag. So I didn't have to carry 40, 50 bags. So I was able to put all that stuff in. And it was just an amazing experience. So by the time I got to my destination, they were still nice and hot. When I tell you he was not kidding about these cookies, oh my God. So they are in Nashville. They're in different parts of Texas. Like I said, there are 6 locations in Atlanta. Tips Treats. You have to try it out. It's just amazing. Okay, so moving on from that, I'm going to talk about what he was talking about the music. So I thought about it. I'm like, okay, what do people play when I get into ride shares? I take enough of them. Do they always? And I got to admit, the music's already preset once I get in. And 90% of the time, it is on an urban channel. Now, I have my headsets with me, so it's not a big deal. I mean, if I don't like the music, I'll just, put my headsets on. I prefer that anyway, rather than listen to crazy conversation I don't want to hear. I hate small talk. So I bring my own headsets. There have been maybe 2 times where the driver asked me what I wanted to listen to. I was in shock. I hit him with the smooth jazz. I don't have to listen to R&B. We can go, we can play oldies, but, whatever. So he also said, well, one thing about that, I looked it up and, well, let me back up again. Going all over the place in this. Okay, so it's what it is. He made it seem like it was kind of low-key racist, that they always play certain types of music. And I take enough ride shares and hotel shuttles and airport shuttles to know they set their music based on who's in the van or who's in the car. So, I mean, I guess maybe it is low-key racist. But I've only had 2 drivers ever who played where I was a minority, and they played, like, one guy played the Commodores and another guy played R&B, and I was in a minority in the band. So I was kind of shocked on that because they usually play pop, the majority of, they play cater to the majority. But I did find that there's this app called Stereo, Stereo. At drivers, it's only for the drivers, and they could play music from new artists, and the app tracks how much music is played. And once they become a premium member, they get paid to listen. So that's something, Flan, if you're listening, that you can suggest to them if you don't want to hear their music, or just, I don't know, bring your own headsets. But it's just interesting that he brought that up, because I had to really think. I'm like, yeah, maybe it is kind of, I mean, like, feel free to listen to something else other than the urban thing. And then he talked about how he always gives these drivers 5 stars unless it's a bad experience. And I'm the same way. There's only been 2 cases that I really didn't give 5 stars. But let me tell you about the story that I forgot first. The 5-star story was recently. I had this girl. The ride was only 10 minutes long. After I verify and she verifies who I am, she was wearing a mask. She had plexiglass, like a taxi driver, to divide me and her, which I thought was the smartest thing to do for every driver, especially with all the craziness that you see going on with people throwing stuff at drivers. It's not safe. That plexiglass is just so smart. So she had that up. She had the hand sanitizer in the back for me, water, charger, asked me if I was comfortable with the window being up or down. And it was just amazing experience. I loved her. I couldn't wait I definitely want to see her again. 5 stars she got for me. Then there was this other case, total opposite end of the spectrum. It was a lady in New Orleans, and she was okay at first, but then the ride was as long. I mean, the ride shouldn't have been longer than 15 minutes. I had a lot of bags. I could have walked it, but actually that was the first and only ride that I actually let myself out of the ride. We were going around, we ran around in a big circle, really. And the conversation just went so far left. She was really just bugging the hell out of me. So I'm like, you know what? Let's just let me out. And she's like, nope, let me out. Make sure you give me 5 stars. I couldn't believe she said that. I gave the woman 2 stars and I never want to see her again. And I got my money back from that ride. Horrible. So that's my 2-star experience. But in general, I give 5 stars. And depending on the length of the ride, I will tip the driver, depending on the length and how cool they are. But it's rare because I'm like, that's just, that's what they do. They didn't do anything special. But, but I really, really have to like them in order to get a tip from them. But do you have any rideshare stories? I'd love to know your experiences with music. Do you find that they play certain types of music when you ride with them? And have you had any horror stories from ride shares, or do you do ride shares at all? I'd love to know. You have been tuning in to Drea's Point of View. I can be heard on Podbreed Network, Good Pods, Top Black Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Anchor, Breaker, Spreaker, and more. Feel free to leave me a comment on my website, www.dreaspointofview.com, or on social media. I'm on Facebook and IG, Drea's Point of View, as well as Twitter, Drea Point. It's been my pleasure bringing you a part of me, and I hope that you remain to be a listener. Until next time, take care.